Today we're going to trim and season this USDA prime beef brisket. It's from Costco, 12.5 pounds, 50 bucks. It was the last one that they had there. Somebody had cleaned them out minutes before I got there. As you can see, looks like a great cut of meat. This is really hard. All this is going to have to come off right here, this chunk. But looks pretty good. Let's go on and get this trimmed up and seasoned. Then we're gonna throw in some saran wrap, let it sit overnight, and go on the grill. With brisket, this is a 12.5 pound. I am by no means an expert. If you want an expert, there's masterclass.com, and they have all those country boys that'll show you how to do it. This is just a brief idea on how to cook a brisket on a Saturday afternoon. So this is, again, 12.5 pounds. We have a little bit of fat over here that needs to get trimmed off. You can certainly go to YouTube and find the other experts. This is how I do it. I'm gonna trim just a little bit off the edges here, and this hard bit of fat right here, I'm gonna chop right off, and then we're gonna flip it around on the other end. And as you can see, this right here, there we go. It's so big, I need 2 cutting boards. This is the flat piece right here. So there's definitely a little bit of fat. We're gonna wanna trim this off, just kind of slice it, maybe 1/2 inch or so, maybe a little bit less. And I'm gonna get busy doing that. I'll show you what it looks like here in a second. Okay, and if anybody says I'm butchering the meat, guess what? This is my meat. I'm allowed to butcher it. Again, I'm not an expert or one of these country boys from Alabama who's been cooking this for 7 generations. I'm just trying to get most of the fat off and leave like 1/2 inch, maybe 1/4 inch is what the experts say. And we are in the process of doing that. So don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. A lot of people wear gloves. Those people are fancy. And I don't judge you. Again, it's 2022, no judgment here. So I'm just gonna use my hands and my fillet knife and go to town and try not to nick myself and just get some of that fat. Oh, went a little deep there, but that's okay. And just kind of slice it off like this and throw it. Some folks like to get all the fat and render it down. If you want to do that, go for it. I'm probably not going to save this fat. All right, you can cut. So you can see that there's different types of fat. This is kind of the hard fat right here. And for me, this is, I'm not an expert, but again, this is the kind of fat that I don't think is gonna break down very well. So I'm okay with kind of trimming that stuff off. So we'll get that right here. But this stuff right here, you can kind of pinch off. This is the stuff that'll render pretty good. So I don't wanna take too much of it off, but it's that silver lining fat that we just want to get enough of it off, because there's a lot of it down here, especially here at the bottom. It's like same consistency as saggy skin. Nobody wants a saggy skin brisket. So we're gonna keep working on trimming this bad boy, and as soon as we're done on this side, we'll flip it over and see what we got. All right, we're just about finishing up. Now this is the flat and this is the point. And I've gotten rid of, I only had 1 nick. My daughter made fun of me, only 1 nick this time. I got rid of most of all the hard fat and probably took off too much fat, to be honest. But there was a big old hard, really like fat right here and in here. But for the most part, if you just take off the silver skin, which you can see down here, you can kind of see the silver skin. If we can scrape some of that off, get it off the best you can, then you'll be good to go. And so this is about all the fat that I've trimmed off. Again, 12.5 pound brisket. I'd say that's a good pound, pound and a half. So we're gonna be looking at, I'm gonna say this is gonna be 11 pounds or so when we get it on the grill. All right, next stop is seasoning. And we'll get right on that as soon as I put the finishing touches on this. And one more thing you might want to think about, when you can trim the outside of this into just a good shape, and you might notice some sections that are really thin. You might as well just go on and cut that off. and throw it in your rendering pile, because that's gonna cook really fast. It's gonna cook uneven. So if you have some super thin parts, even down here on the flat, like right here, it's only just a tiny little bit. So you can just go on and slice this off, kind of round it out a little bit more, throw it in the rendering pile. Then you can cook that down and make all sorts of good stuff. But for right now, this is about the shape that I want. It's looking pretty good, so we're gonna get started on seasoning. Now, a lot of people will say you need to put some type of mustard or olive oil down, and that's totally fine. Again, I'm not the master. Go to masterclass if you want the barbecue lessons. Me, I don't really think there's a reason to do that, because the brisket is moist enough. So I'm just gonna go on and use this seasoning. I think the most common seasoning for Texas brisket is the salt, coarse pepper, kosher salt, coarse pepper, and paprika. But this is kind of a mixture of that, and it's got a little bit of other good stuff in here. If you're gonna do store-bought, which I'm doing because I'm lazy today, just check the ingredients, and if it's more than 5 or 6, maybe get something else. I like this, it's gluten-free. My wife has a gluten allergy, so we wanna make sure that this is good to go, and we're gonna start seasoning her. So is there a certain amount of seasoning that should go on? Again, I have no idea. I am going to go up top. I'm gonna hit it liberally, snowflakey. And no offense to all the snowflakes, you cool too. Everybody cool. So we're gonna get one side in here. And this is to help make sure that your bark is gonna be nice and crunchy and tasty. So we want a good seasoning. I think this is looking pretty good. I'm gonna pat it down in here, getting the nooks and crannies, getting the nether regions. Don't forget the nethers. All right, that's looking pretty good. Nice and seasoned up. So now I'm just gonna flop it. Do the same thing on the other side. Flop. That's a lot of beef right there. So again, I got most of that hard fat off. That's not gonna render very well. The rest of this should just melt over time. It's like butter here. So we're gonna hit up this side. I found these trays at the dollar store. They were actually $1.25 now. So for me, it's just a lot easier to clean up. And here we are, getting closer. Pat it in there. Oh, look at all this. Missed it down in there. Ooh-wee. That's looking, that's the sound test right there. I don't know what that means, but. All right, we can definitely get along the sides. Don't discriminate. Sides need spice too. Okay. Looking good. And camera girl, why don't you zoom in real quick? Let's take a look at what a seasoned 12-pound brisket looks like. What do you think? Looking good? Yes. Yes is the answer. All right. Let's not use that. Let's go back for another roll. And just like magic, this is gonna be fully wrapped in 3, 2, 1, and abracadabra. The power of editing. Look at this bad boy. Fully trimmed, fully seasoned, fully cellophaned, wrapped, ready to go in the refrigerator overnight. So the goal is all of the spices are gonna seep in, and it's gonna be delicious, and it's gonna be holding it, locking in all the flavor, and when it cooks all day, it's gonna slowly release. All right, we're on day 2, and we're gonna cook this brisket. Let's see what we got here. These are all the things that I have just to get started with the grill. I have some, let's see, that's some hickory soaking in some water for a few minutes. I have a little fire starter. I've decided not to use the chimney because that just starts too big of a fire, and that's not what I want to do. And you might have a different technique, and if it works for you, that's great, but I'm just showing you what works for me. Some parchment paper, lighter, of course, some apple juice for the spritz, and I'm going to mix that in with a little bit of apple cider vinegar as well. Actually, no, that's right. I'm using some pecan. And this royal oak, they have that other kind of lump coal, jungle, devil, something or other, and that's great too. I was going back and forth between using lump coal on this one and that S method or what is it, the semicircle method with briquettes. But last time I did a brisket, I was about 5-6 hours into it and it died out on me, so I just don't trust it. Coal or lump works well, so I'm gonna stick with that. I also have one of these great 16-inch all-purpose pans. It's great for the grill, works well. And this bad boy, it's an Inkbird smart wireless barbecue thermometer. I'll show you why it works really well. I got it off of Amazon. But this is the beast. And I tell you, I love this Char-Griller Akorn. I have cooked with Weber my whole life. You know, I'd spend $50 on a grill, and I would use it for a summer, maybe 2, and then it would rust out, something would happen to it. And then I'd have to just change it out. But I've had this about a year now, and I'm telling you, we cook everything in it. It is magic. Once you get it dialed in correctly, it is a beast, and I plan to have this for a long, long time. Just take care of it, clean it every now and again. Try to season your grates, your cooking grates right here. Do what you can to preserve it, and if you do, it will treat you well and cook delicious meat for you. Okay, here we are, and this is the Akorn fully loaded with the lump, and I got my pecan wood that's soaked for a few minutes. Should have some really nice smoky flavor when we're done. And as you can see, I've moved all the lump over to the side, and I have that little lighter cube right in the middle and just one piece of coal, a couple of pieces of coal sticking to it. So the idea is when you light it, it's just gonna slowly spread around over time and not just have an instant flame and poof. So that's the goal. And let's go on. Start this bad boy. See what happens. Here we go. The process has begun. There's no turning back now. So we're gonna let this burn down a little bit, and we'll do our best to dial it down. This has happened to me before where I went crazy and shot, and these Akorns are famous for this. It'll get up to temperature as fast as you want it to. And so I just got it too hot, and it was impossible to slow it down. And I had to slow down the cook, and it took me a couple of hours to get the temperatures back down, and I had to start over again. So this time, the trick is just start it off slow. And then it's much easier to dial in when it's, when it's a little bit slower. So what I'm gonna do is when I see this thing start to move, that's when I'm gonna shut the dampers down and slowly let it just get to its 225. And then I'm gonna put everything in it, including the water and the tray. Let it get to close to 250. We'll put the meat on, expecting a dip, and then we'll get it right back to 250 when the meat's on, and set the timer and let it go from there. So fingers crossed. Okay, so we pulled the brisket out from the refrigerator, from its cellophane. It had been wrapped all night. And the reason for that, in my mind, it just helps to seal the seasoning in and hopefully absorb it into the meat a little bit more. So for me, I think this looks great. Other people might do it in a different way. Again, this is my meat, this is how I do it. Tell me if you do it in a different way, or if I'm crazy, or if I need to change how I'm doing it. But it looks like temperature's starting to move here a little bit. So that's good. And let's take a look. Yeah, that's it. So you can see the fire started right in the middle and a few different points where it's gonna start moving out. So this looks great. And I would say we are ready to put this deflector on. Put it just like so. Fits like a glove. And get this bad boy on. I'm gonna fill it up with some water, and we'll be good to go. All right, we're looking good here. And I don't know if you can see, but there's just a little bit of water, probably 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 of an inch. And the reason why I don't fill it all the way up is if this thing gets too hot, one good way of bringing the temperature down is getting a bucket of some cold water and being able to pour it, take the grate off, and being able to pour it into the reserve into this pan, and that helps to take the temperature down a little bit. But also the main reason why I like to use it is because it catches a lot of the grease and the drippings. Works really, really well for me. So we are going to let this thing get up to temperature, and I'm going to set up the temperature probes, and then we'll move on to the next stage. I absolutely love this Inkbird smart wireless barbecue thermometer. It's super great. It's magnetic. It pops onto the side. So there's 4 ports, as you can see. So you can actually plug in and test the temperature of 4 different products. If you need the ambient temperature, the meat temperature, if you're cooking 2 different types of meats, it's really cool, and it'll all display the temperature. So right now I have it set up on the back end right here, and it'll tell me what the temperature is, the ambient temperature of the grill. So I'm gonna get this locked up because I'm still trying to get temperature up. And right here, so it's telling me the 4th probe, which is 1, 2, 3, 4th probe, is at 95 degrees, and it's a great way to tell when to throw the meat on. Well, it wouldn't be a barbecue if I didn't forget something. Of course, this was almost dead, so I had to get my mini USB and charge it up and bring extension cords, but we're good. It's charging. But as you can see, it is 151 degrees, and we're still pretty much open. I mean, this thing's kicking pretty good. So I like to just slowly let it get to temperature. I'm in no rush. And so as you can see, there's a slight variation in temperature, just slight, where it says it's about 125 here, but the ambient is saying 150 here. So that's why one of these digital thermometers are such a great idea if you can do it. If not, no biggie. I'm sure this will work just fine as well. So anyways, we're hurrying up and waiting. All right, it looks like we are just about ready to put this on. I've already plugged in this other probe right here, so it goes into probe number 1. And as you can see, it bounces its temperature back to 63 is ambient outside this guy, and 223 inside. So I'm gonna set this here for right now. We have our brisket ready to go. She's smoking. We're gonna lose a little bit of heat, of course, but I'm gonna put you in my pocket and see if I can't take you along for the ride. Let's do it. And if you ask me, that looks about good right here. So we're gonna put this thermometer, we're gonna pop it in about halfway through right there, because that's the thick part. We're gonna shut it, lock her up again, and then we're gonna turn this down just a touch. For me, it's right where that screw is. I like to keep it about halfway there. And then we'll leave it open until this temperature can climb back up again. So it's down to 200. Now, you know what? Let's pump this up just a touch more. We're gonna get this temperature up to 250, and that should happen pretty quickly. And then once it's at 250, we're gonna tighten everything down and do our best to maintain it and let this bad boy cook. Okay, here we are. It's about 12:30, so we're about 4.5 hours into the cook. It looks like our temperature, the meat's about 162. The ambient inside is 268, so that's looking good. I'm just gonna open this up. We're gonna check on it, make sure it's not dried out. I got a little bit of apple juice mixed with apple cider vinegar here, just to hit it up if need be. Let's take a look, see what we got. Oh man, look at that. Oh man, are you kidding me? Look at this. Yeah. Hit this up just a little bit. Yeah, that's looking good. I think this will work. Oh man, look at all that bark over there. So not too much. All right, it's looking great. I'm gonna close her back up. That dropped the temperature quite a bit, I'm sure. But meat temperature is still at 162. So we're gonna wait till it gets to about 165 and then wrap it on the table. Got a nice table here set up. Got some parchment paper, and we'll wrap it up and get going on the next stage of the cook. Okay, here we go. We're looking at 165 temperature inside the point, the thick part of the meat, and still holding about 250 ambient temperature. So let's take a look. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. So what we need to do is get one of these gloves on here. Get this thermometer out. All right, just like so. I'm gonna grab these tongs. Could use my hands, but I'm not going to. All right. I'll do my best to pick this up. Here we go. I'm gonna wrap this bad boy up. All right, boy, that's looking good right there. Look at that. Man, I am pleased with that bark. So it's steaming. I'm gonna wrap this up. I already pulled out the parchment paper, spritzed it a bit with the apple cider vinegar, and I'm gonna wrap this up, put it back in, and get it cooking. Okay, I have everything wrapped up. I'm gonna get this thermometer, or temperature gauge, whatever it is. I'm gonna stab it back in here. That's about good. And voila. I'm gonna change up the damper a little bit, get this fire going again. And it looks like we're reading meat 163, ambient temperature getting a little confused. Gosh, I'm late. It's late. So as you can see, the ambient temperature inside the grill is rising 180, 183. So it's getting hot again. We are now going to let this thing cook to 204. So I'm anticipating another 4 or 5 hours or so. I'm going to get some sleep, come back in a few hours. And another cool thing about this is that it will send an alert to my phone if the temperatures get out of range. So we're all set. I'm gonna let it do its thing, and we'll come back in a few hours. It should be morning time, and we'll pull it off and let it rest. Oh wow, believe it or not, we are finally done. Look at this here. So we're at a 205 cook temperature of the meat, and we actually have that thermometer right in between the flat and the point, and the internal temperature is 264. And let me tell you, this has been about an 18-hour cook, and with that load that I put in, it is still kicking heat. Oh, this Akorn, I'm telling you, this is not a paid advertisement, but if you do not have one yet, if you're thinking about it, absolutely stamp of approval. This thing is tough. It is legit. It cooks. Oh man, I'm in love with it. Here we go. So this is the brisket. I'm gonna pull it. I'm gonna wrap it one more time, and then I'm gonna throw it in this little cooler that I have right here, and we're gonna let it rest for a couple hours. And I better hurry up because we are late for the Kentucky Derby party. Well, this was supposed to be done about an hour ago, but have fun telling brisket when it's ready. So we're gonna drive. It's about an hour away to our friend's house. We're gonna let it rest during that time, and when we get there, should have plenty of time to slice it open, eat some brisket, watch some horses, and hopefully drink a couple of mint juleps, and we'll be good to go.
Congratulations.
That smells really good and looks really nice.
Yeah.
He slept in the garage for this baby.
Yeah, this one turned out pretty well.
I'm happy for you. I can't wait to try it.
Look at that jiggle. Look at that jiggle. pop. Oh, what do you want, huh? What do you want? I think it turned out pretty well. Texas barbecue and Kentucky Derby. That's a wrap on the 12-pound brisket. It was awesome. We took it to our friend's house and everybody ate on it. It was delicious. If you had bet on Rich Strike, 80-1 odds, you're happy today. So to close it out, I'm just in the garage. I'm cleaning up the rest of the stuff, getting the grill seasoned again, getting the inside all cleaned out because it got all gunky. But again, got it about 400. I'm going to hold it here for about an hour and get it re-seasoned. Again, this guy. Stamp of approval. But come on, guys, we know what it is. I'm actually out here in the garage drinking a beer. It's a great excuse. The wife, you tell her, oh, it's chores. That's part of the process. And she's like, okay, honey. Okay. Hope you guys enjoyed. Best of luck on your brisket. And I'll see you next time.